Hello everyone. So today is the second part of our discussion of design of isolated footing. So in the previous class we have discussed about how to find out the dimension of a footing, as well as the cantilever portion we have found out, and we try to find out how we consider the shape bearing capacity, and with how we use the working load but not the design load. We do not use the design load, right? So all these things we have discussed in the previous class. So today we are going to discuss about one-way shear and two-way shear. Basically we will try to find out how to calculate this effective depth or the depth of the footing. Okay, so for that, first of all, we need to find out what is a maximum shear and a minimum shear. In the previous class, we have already discussed that this is the design load and design moment. These are design load and design moment, right? And we can see that this is obviously greater than 200 kilonewton per meter square, which was the SBC for our case. So this is because we find out the design's maximum stress and minimum stress so that we can use it for designing our footing. So that is so far we have discussed. So now let's go to our today's topic, determination of thickness of the footing. So before going into in depth of the finding out the depth of the footing, you should understand about two things. One is one-way shear and second is two-way shear or punching shear. Two-way or punching shear. Okay, so one-way shear is nothing but a simple shear that we have already discussed, means in the beams also. We say suppose this is a beam, and if you have a load, then what might happen that this beam might get cracked, right? So it might get cracked. So suppose at this face it might get cracked and shear might happen, right? So in this case shear might happen, so the beam might fail over this face, okay, which is at the distance d from the column face, right? So this is basically one-way shear. This is one-way shear in the one side only. And while we will talking about punching shear or two-way shear, we will see that in certain cases what might happen that a column or anything that is in compression member which is supported by some slab or footing, it might punch through the slab or the footing. Okay, so we will discuss that. Just first just look at this figure. Okay, suppose this is our footing and this is our column, and it is subjected to a point load P naught. Okay, in that case what will happen that the whole of the footing will be under reaction, right? Soil reaction. So it might be uniform, it might be uniformly varying, it depends. So if it is varying, uniformly varying, then also what will happen, there are two kind of shear that might happen. There are two kinds of shear failure that might occur. So one is one-way shear and another is the two-way shear. In one-way shear, what might happen, you can see here that in suppose at certain critical distance, what this suppose this particular part might come out, there might be shear crack develop here. Okay, so you can check here, just look at this figure. So this is the side view of it. If it's a one-way shear, what will happen, so whatever load is acting here, so this load will try to crack through this particular footing, and this particular section might come up, right? This particular section might come up. So this kind of shear might happen. This is called one-way shear. Or in other case, what might happen that the column might punch through this particular footing. So I can show you one figure. Here you can see that this is a slab this is a slab and this is a column, right? So actually initially it was, this part is part of the slab, and what happened, because of the punching shear, the column punched through the slab, and you can see one chunk, rectangular chunk of the slab is along with the column, and it just passed through the slab. Okay, this kind of shear failure might happen. So there are some other examples also. You can see over here, this one. Here also the column comes out of the slab, so this kind of shear might happen. So you have to take care of that this kind of shear failure doesn't occur in your footing. Okay, so this is one-way shear case and this is two-way shear. In two-way shear, what happens, suppose this is that particular rectangular chunk that I have shown you, this particular portion, and this might come downward inside the footing. Okay, and then what will happen, this heads portion, you can see this portion will act the upward direction and this portion will go downward. Okay, so this distance, basically the critical distance for two-way shear is at the distance d by 2 from the face of the column. Okay, d by 2 means what, d is the depth of the footing. At the distance d by 2 all around the footing, you will get the critical phase. You can see that in the figure that the whole section, the whole chunk of this footing or the slab might punch through the footing or the slab. Okay, so you have to find out the shear all along all this whole side, four side, you have to find out the shear force. And in case of one-way shear, you have to, this is the critical phase, and the critical phase is assumed to be at a distance d from the face of the column, and this portion, this hatch portion might come up, and so this cross-sectional area about this line will be what, will be the critical phase. This will be the critical phase. You have to find out the stress about this particular phase. Okay, for one-way shear, and for two-way shear you have to find the shear about this four faces. Okay, so in one-way shear only one phase, this particular phase. So, and in case of two-way, this four phases we have to consider. So this is basically the idea behind finding out the thickness, because if the thickness is higher, then shear strength will be higher. If thickness is smaller, then shear strength will be smaller, right? So according to these two conditions, we can find out what is the thickness required for this particular footing. So first of all, let's find out the footing thickness of the footing based on one-way shear. So as just now we have seen that it is acting on a straight face, right, at the distance d from the face of the column. So first thing is that the critical phase of the one-way shear is at the distance d from the face of the column. Okay, and the stress at a distance d from the face of the column will be how much? So it will be QUD. Suppose this is a distress at the distance D, that will be, suppose here this is the footing face, right? This is the column, suppose, and if I have to draw the stress distribution diagram, it is something like this. And I know that at this phase, this is at the suppose distance D. At this phase, the critical shear is acting, or the critical phase. So this particular phase I have to consider. So I have to find out what is the stress that is acting upward. This force I want to find out. Okay, so that force will be how much? This area of this particular trapezoid, this area will be this reaction that is acting upward. So what will be that value? That will be, if this is Q minimum and this is Q maximum, then I can draw a triangle over here. I can draw a triangle. This is a rectangle and this is a triangle. Okay, so I want to find out this particular part, this distance, this one. So that will be how much? Q minimum. I have to interpolate because I don't know what is the distance. So first of all, let's first assume that the effective depth of the footing is 600 mm. It is just an assumption. Always take some higher value so that it is always in the conservative side, because as you move on the D side, the stresses will be more and more, but it should not be very higher also. So you can just assume suppose 600 for this case. And now if I want to find out what is the stress at this location, suppose I want to find out the stress at this location, suppose this is denoted by Q U underscore D, the stress value at this location QUD. QUD will be how much? QU minimum, this one, plus this extra part, this part, right? So QU minimum plus QU maximum minus QU minimum by L into this distance. So what will be this distance? This is small c, this distance is c y, and D assumed, right? So this is the assumed. So this is the total distance. So if you do this calculation, you can find out that the stress at the critical phase QUD is around 0.246 kilonewton per Newton per meter square. Okay, this is 0.246 Newton per mm square. You just have to interpolate and you have to find out what is the stress at this phase, so that we can find out what is the total force, what I can find out, or you can find out the reaction R. So the as you can see here, the stresses are varying. Here you can get the maximum stress and we have a QUD value. So if I want to find the total R, either you can find out the area, or what we can do, we can find out the average and we can multiply with the distance, right? So find out the average between these two, that is QUD plus QU max, and it will be 0.255 Newton per mm square. And then if I want to find out the total shear force that is acting, VU1 is equal to Q average D into B. B is the total width, right? This is L, this is L over here we are talking about, this is L, with the B is along that direction, so that will be B into C minus D. C minus D because this is the C direction. Okay, I think here I can show you. So here in this figure you can see this at the distance D, so this is nothing but Q U D, this is Q max. So we have to find out the area into, we have, this is L, right? This is L. So total force, shear force, if I want to find out, then if I draw the 3D view of it, it will be something like this, right? So what will be this width? This will be B, the width will be B, right? So you have to find out the average, that is Q max plus Q U underscore D by 2, that will be the average, into B into the length, this length, right? The total A, then only I can find out the total force V, which is acting upward. Suppose this is a V, then V is equal to QU max plus QUD by 2 into B into this length. I'm talking about this length because this length where this force stress is acting. So into what will be this length? This will be total cantilever projection is C minus D. D is something we have assumed, that is 600 mm. So you can find out what is the value of V. So that is the shear force that is acting upward, right? Now we have to solve it, we have to find out the D, right? So just now we have calculated, here you can see the now you can see that this value Q average, this UV, you can find out the D. So if this is the equation, this is the force that is acting. This is the force. Now what is the shear strength it has? So assuming that you are providing 0.25% of steel with M25 grade, we can find out the tau c value as 0.36 from the IS 456, right? From the IS 456, for 0.25% of steel, you can find out for M20 grade what is the tau c value. So for this tau c value, what will be the shear strength? So VUC is equal to tau c into B into D, right? So here also you can see that it's a function of D, effective depth. So D, because the shear stress is acting over this face, right? Over this face. So this is D, this is B, this is the footing basically. This is the footing. So we have a column over here, we have the column over here, something like this. So this is the footing. Okay, so this is the face where the shear force acting. So that is why B into D. So this face we have to consider. So tau c into B into D. So that will be also a equation. It is 720D. And in our case, what should be the safer case? When our shear strength is tau c is more than whatever force that is acting, right? Then the section will be safe for one way shear. So if you apply this condition and try to find out and solve for D, then you can get the D value should be greater than 404. Hence let us assume that D is 404 mm. That is, effective depth of the footing is 404 mm. Now if we go for two-way shear, the same thing we have to do, but here in this case you can see for two-way shear, see here, this part of the footing is going downward, right? This is going downward, but this hatching portion is going upward. If I show you over here, suppose this is the portion, this black hatching part along with the column, this will suppose move down, and the other part will move up because of the punching shear, right? So punching shear will appear at which of the faces? Around this face, this face, this face, and the opposite face. Okay, so what is the total upward or the upward shear force? VU2. VU2 will be the total shear force that is acting over this hatched area. And what will be the total shear force? So what you can do, you can find out what is the average shear force, Q average. That means acquired at the center, because it is varying, right? So you can find out a Q average, and from that you can calculate it out what is the shear force that is acting in the this side. Okay, so let's see the equation. So Q average is Q minimum plus Q maximum minus Q minimum by L into L by 2. So it is simply, or what you can do, it is simply Q max plus Q minimum by 2. Same answer you will get. Okay, you can use this. Then this shear average shear force that you are looking at, so where exactly it is acting? So it is acting at all the hatch portion. This is the footing, so this is the column, suppose. So this is the punching faces, right? So we have to find out what is the total force over this area, hatching area. If this is L, this is B, in that case the total shear force acting is L into B, um, here, yeah, this equation is a bit wrong, don't consider. So see here, VU2 is equal to Q average into L into B, that is the total area, minus this black area, suppose, because that will go down. This area we have to subtract. So over the other area, whatever force is acting, so that we can take it as the upward force that is acting for a punching shear. So if I do the subtract, so the thing is the critical phase is at a distance d by 2 from the face of the column. So from both the sides is d by 2, d by 2, and if it is cx and here it is cy, then cx plus d and cy plus d. So cx plus d into cy plus d. Okay, that will give you the total area, this black area. So if I subtract it from L into B, I will get this hatching area. Then if I multiply with the Q average, I can find out what is the ultimate strength. Oh, sorry, what is the shear force that is acting over this punching faces. Okay, so this is about the punching shear force. Now if you go for punching shear strength, so that you can find out from the clause 31.6.3, where it is mentioned that you can calculate the shear strength using Ks into tau c into the area, cross section area. You have to multiply, you can get the shear strength, the punching shear strength you can find out. Okay, so suppose this is tau uc, so that you can find out what is ks. Ks is 0.5 plus beta c, and what is beta c? Beta c is the ratio of the short side to the long side. So looking at that, so first find out ks. Ks is 0.5 plus short side by long side, that is this is beta c basically. So it comes out to be 1.1, and is also mentioned that it should not be more than 1. So take ks is equal to 1. And what is the grade of concrete for the footing? It is 20. So what will be the tau c is 0.25 root over fck. So it will be 1.118. And now if I want to find out what is the shear strength for punching, then this ks into tau c, that will multiply with the area. Now what will be the area over here? If you remember the figure, see here, the what will be the faces that will be considered. So this face will be resisting the punching shear, then this face, then the other opposite side and the opposite side. This face will be used to resist the punching shear. So you have to find out the area of these faces. Okay, so how you can find out? You find out the perimeter into depth, you can find out the area, right? It's very simple. So that is what we are going to do. We'll first find out the perimeter. Perimeter is cx plus d plus cy plus d into 2 into depth, and that will be assuming d from the previous one-way shear, which is 404, it is coming to be 1452.621 kilonewton. This is the shear strength. Now you can see, you can compare that whatever shear strength it has, it is more than the shear force that is coming, which is 870, and strength punching shear strength it has 1452. So it is okay. So you can see that in most of the cases, um, sorry, not in most cases, in certain cases punching may be predominant, but here in most of the cases you might find that one-way shear is governing the depth. Okay, so the whatever depth we have found from one-way shear, that has been taken for calculation for the two-way shear, and has been found that the strength is more than the punching force that is coming. So that means the assumption or that we have considered for one-way shear is okay, right? So now we will consider that d should be greater than 404, and assuming 75 mm clear cover for footing, it is 75 mm, remember, and assuming 16 mm bar, the d can be taken as 487. So let us assume that overall depth of the footing to be 500 mm. So this is how we go for finding out the depth of the footing. So today's class is a bit difficult. You might get difficult understanding the equations. So please try to watch the video again, and try to understand or visualize the phases where the shear force act. This is important. Okay, so I hope you will understand, or if you have not understand, please let me know. Thank you.